Hello and welcome back to Dragon Age Inquisition. This episode is going to be a Codex reading episode. So, yes, I feel that it's good to do this before we get too many Codex entries, and I'm planning on taking a break in my recording session, so it seems like a good time for me to do it. So, let's see if we can find we're going to quickly look up the hotkey for Codex so that I will remember this in the future. Codex. There is not a hotkey for Codex, such that I can see. Okay, so we're just going to do it manually. No trouble. So, start off, we'll just get the tutorial codexes out the way. We read them when they popped up. Kind of makes sense. Let's look. I think we'll do it this way, although we're going to quickly jump. Oh, that's actually stuff on a cat. Never mind, we will look at that as well. So, we'll look at places. So, Haven. I would like to speak to you of Haven, the village in the Frostbacks, close to the Temple of Sacred Ashes. We're all aware of its past. It was home to the disciples of Andraste, as they called themselves. Descended from the people who built the temple itself, they had strayed over years of isolation from their once noble roots to become dragon worshippers. After the hero Ferelden discovered the Temple of Sacred Ashes, which the disciples guarded jealously, what remained of the cult moved on, and Haven was abandoned to the ice and the snow. I passed through Haven on my pilgrimage to see the Temple of Sacred Ashes. There was a storm, and I took my shelter in the hall of Haven's Chantry. Though they were dusty from neglect, the walls of that lovely place were strong and shielded me from the biting winds. Peace came upon me, and my ears were open to Haven's incredible beauty. It could not be overcome by the pain and the horror of the past. It could not be masked by decay and disuse. It would not be forgotten. Haven is precious to Orlais, to the Chantry, and to the Sunburst throne for its historical and religious significance. It is my will that Haven be restored, rededicated to the service of Andraste and preserved for the ages. Let it be a sanctuary for the pilgrims who seek out the Temple of Sacred Ashes. May they rest here beneath the cold, bright skies. May the glory of the Maker be revealed to them as they gaze upon the grey peaks that are the works of his hand. Now and forevermore, let this be a haven for the faithful. From a speech by Divine Justyna 5th in 935 Dragon. Okay, so that was written by the Justice who we saw in the flashback vision we had. Okay. Temple of Sacred Ashes rediscovered. And his followers built a temple to house her remains. There the legend ends. For centuries, men searched for the Temple of Sacred Ashes, finding only rumours and small tales. Chantry scholars concluded there was no temple. There were no sacred ashes. It was all a myth. Allegory intended to inspire and feed the fire of faith. And then the hero of Ferelden came, seeking to cure a dying Arl with the miraculous powers of the ashes. The hero, with the help of renowned scholar brother Ferdinand Genetivi, traced the steps of the ancients and came to a remote ruin. High in the Frostback Mountains, there, the urn of sacred ashes waited, as the legend said it would. After the triumph of the righteous over the fifth blight, the temple's discovery was shared with the world. Much to our dismay, however, at the time our soldiers arrived at the temple, the urn had disappeared. To this day we do not know who took them, or why. All that is certain is that it was the Maker's will. The hero of Ferelden did not share the discovery with the world. Brother Genetivi, whose research made it possible, had disappeared without a trace. Truth, however, will always out, and rumours circulated about the cause of Arl Eamon Huerin's miraculous recovery. Agents of the Chantry investigated claims about the Urn of Sacred Ashes and were eventually led, as the hero had been led, to the temple. By the time our soldiers reached it, however, the urn was nowhere to be found. Though the ashes were gone, the temple itself stood, and it had since become a source of hope for the faithful. If the Grand Cathedral is the beating heart of our Chantry, then the Temple of Sacred Ashes is her soul. Here we honour the Chantry's past, even as we forge bravely into our future. From a lecture delivered by a Chantry scholar, Mother Clothild, at the University of Orlais in 938 Dragon. So it's the same image. I wonder, they keep talking about Orlais. I wonder if Orlais is taking over for Eldon again. Because it rather seems like Haven is part of Orlais, but the amount it's talked about. Or maybe it's just the Chantry is based in Orlais, so they're just talking about it from Orlaisian perspective. Might want to look more into that. Okay, magic. Red Lyrium. To answer your question, my lord, yes, I have indeed heard of this red lyrium of which you speak. A single piece of it surfaced in the eastern city of Kirkwall, and its influence alone was nearly enough to cause the city's destruction. As near as we can determine, it is regular lyrium that has been somehow corrupted. Those who have touched red lyrium, or even come near it, report that it sings to them, like whispers in the mind of those and the mind that slowly drives them mad. We do not know, however, what might stem from extended contact with red lyrium. Madness, surely, but would there be physical corruption as well? What would happen if a mage or Templar used red lyrium as they used regular lyrium? Far more disturbing is the fact that lyrium could be corrupted at all. Treat any red lyrium you encounter as if it was poison. Do not go near it, do not attempt to destroy it, and most importantly, do not attempt to use it. From partially burned letter by an unknown writer affixed with the Grey Warden's seal. Okay, so red lyrium is bad, and there was an awful lot of that in the breach we cleared. Could that be causing it? The breach. The veil is not a physical curtain, not a structure limited to a particular place. It is everywhere. It is in their home, in the street where they walk, in the farmers' fields, as well as remote mountain vales. At any moment it could be torn to shreds, allowing demons and other horrors to flood into our world like water through a burst dam. Known lore tells us that small rifts can be sealed, but what about large ones? What if some catastrophic magical event created a rift so large and horrific it weakened the integrity of the veil as a whole? Such a breach would threaten our entire world, turning concerns about occasional demonic intrusion into a charming anecdote compared to the monsters that we would then face. If there is anything to be done, any reason we should look at magic with fear, it is for that possibility more than any other. From the True Threat of Magic by Lady Seeker Alandra Vale. Okay, same image. Weird image. Okay, so history. So this will tell us a bit of the actual backstory, I'm guessing, of previous choices. The Conclave. It has been a year of little more than chaos. Yes, the mages voted to dissolve the Circle of Magi, but I will point out, this vote came only after increased restrictions were placed on them following the unfortunate events in Kirkwall. What other choices did they have? Yes, the Templar Order abandoned their duties and elected to pursue the mages to bring them back in line. But after 1,000 years in which their sole role was the mage's keeper, what else could one expect? They envisioned the war over quickly, a single battle that would see the mages' resolve crumble, after which they would meekly return to confinement. That did not happen. This conflict could drag on forever, with on neither side. Both Templars and mages see this, and thus they have agreed to come to the Conclave. This is our chance. Words need to be said which have not been said. A compromise must be reached because there is no other choice. I believe this with all my heart. I am not without fault in this. Perhaps I pushed too hard for reform, or not enough. The Maker has seen fit to give me another chance. I will not squander it. The Temple of Sacred Ashes is where, together, we will make history. And with luck, we will be remembered kindly for it. From the Journals of Divine Justyna 5th, Dragon 941. So she appears to blame herself for the trouble that's happening between the mages and the Templars. Interesting. Creatures. We got a few ones here. Foot Soldier. I have faced Antivian duelists, Ferelden Ash Warriors, and Fog Warrior Skirmishers. When we strip away these titles and tricks, they are simply men who wish to see their enemies dead, but need a hand free to manage it. Duelists favour a thinner target over the offensive strength of a main coach. Ash Warriors need a hand to guide their Marbari, and a lighter weapon to take advantage of the openings their dogs leave, while Fog Warriors rely on stealth and speed to use a heavy shield. Too much to use a heavy shield. When engaging with such an opponent, respect his speed. His hands and feet will move a great deal, ignore them. Watch his hips and his shoulders instead. First, deny what advantage he has in his allies or environment, unless you have trained equally in such matters. Once you control his weapon, overwhelm him. He has no shield, and you need not fear a second blade. If forced to fight in such a manner, you must decide whether you will fight as a duelist, one-handed, or chevalier. If the former, drop your back leg away to tighten your center target, as you have no shield to cover your body, or a second weapon to bring in the fight. Focus on a quick attack and give ground freely when you cannot find an advantage. If the latter, rely on your vambrace and gauntlet as a shield, and try to wrench your opponent's weapon away. My left arm bears the scars of such efforts, but my opponents bear worse. Better still, do not lose your shield at all, but battles are not the place of perfection. An excerpt from Meditations upon the Use of Blades by Swordmaster Mathis de Jean Mien, required reading at the Academy des Chevaliers. Okay. Pride Demon. The most powerful demons yet encountered are the Pride Demons, perhaps because they, among all their kind, most resemble men. As clever and manipulative as the Desire Demon, with a perchance for cruel irony that is almost human. While the demons of desire largely engage in the bribery of mortals, pride will use the mortals' own best nature against them. Clever men outwit themselves, strong men crush themselves, humble men forget themselves, jealous men fear themselves. They turn corruption and ruin into an art. From Beyond the Veil, Spirits and Demons by Enchanter Midromo. Shade. It has often been suggested that the only way for a demon to affect the world of the living is by possessing a living, or once living body. But this is not always true. Indeed, a shade is one such creature. A demon that its true form has adapted to affect the world around it. My hypothesis is this. We already know that many demons become confused when they pass through the veil into our world. They are unable to tell the living from the dead, the very static nature of our universe being confusing to a creature that is accustomed to a physicality defined entirely by emotion and memory. Most demons seek to seize immediately upon anything they perceive as life, jealously attempting to possess it. But what of those that do not? What of those that encounter no life or fail to possess a body? What of those who are more cautious by their very nature? These demons watch, they lurk, they envy. In time, such a demon will learn to drain energy from the psyche of those it encounters, just as it did in the Fade. Once it drained enough, it has the power to manifest and will forever be known as a shade. Such a creature spurns possession, instead floats as a shadow, across a piece of land, preying upon the psyche of any who cross its path. Perhaps it believes itself still in the Fade. There is evidence to believe this so. Okay. Wraith. Like wisps, wraiths are sometimes thought to be the remains of spirits or demons that have been destroyed. They cannot shape the fate around themselves, nor are they capable of mimicking forms they see in the minds of dreamers, as many weaker spirits do. Instead, they are scavengers of the fate, dwelling in the shadows of stronger beings, feeding on scraps of thought and emotion. From beyond the veil, spirits and demons by enchanter Midromo. Okay, so we found a bit about the creatures. Time to have a look at characters. Ooh, we have quite a few here. Hopefully there's not too much talking. Starting to lose my voice a little bit, but I will carry on. Lord Seeker Lucius, I'm fully aware of the intent behind your predecessor's declaration. Lord Seeker Lambert pried the Templars away from the Chantry control and led them into an assault against all mages, for reasons you both find justified. I, however, am uncertain when the Seekers of Truth went from guarding against injustice to perpetrating it. If you truly believe that 'tis not the case, I suggest you look out the window at the chaos this war has caused and ask yourself if Thedas will recover even if you're victorious. I remain at Divine Justyna's right hand, and will stay there even if you brand me a traitor. I am sorry, but there is too much at stake to swerve from the path we willingly followed at the Chantry's foundation. From a letter by Seeker Cassandra Pentagast to Lord Seeker Lucien Corin, Dragon 939. So that was Cassandra Pentagast. She probably said that earlier. Divine Justyna the Fifth. I assume that's what it means. It's actually 5. Divine Justyna the Fifth rose to power after the death of Divine Beatrix III in the year 934 of the Dragon Age. Little is known of Dothria's background before she joined the Chantry as initiate, but she proved to be a liberal and daring thinker willing to take a former bard and lay sister Liliana as a close advisor. A headstrong devotion to her own agenda and rumoured support of the Mage Rebellion earned her no small dislike from the powerful priests, long used to controlling access to the divine. In the year 940 of the Dragon Age, Divine Justyna called a summit intending to negotiate a truce between the Mage Rebellion and the Templars splintered from the Chantry. The Divine Conclave was held at the Temple of Sacred Ashes, the most holy place in Thedas. Before a resolution could be reached, a cataclysmic explosion destroyed the Conclave, consumed the temple, rent the sky, and shattered the world's hope for peace. Divine Justyna V perished in the Temple of Sacred Ashes. The Chantry flounders leaderless in the wake of her death, and its fate grows increasingly uncertain. If the order is not restored to Thedas, Justyna V might be remembered as the Chantry's final divine. High Chancellor Roderick. Chantry to the Grand Cathedral in Valroy. Chantry to the Grand Cathedral in Valroy. It takes more than sermons to keep it alive. There is an invisible army at work ensuring meals are delivered, repairs are made, and faithful attended to, and much of it is done by Chantry brothers like myself. The position of High Chancellor places a man beside the Most Holy. I control who is permitted audience, handle her correspondence, deliver her word to Thedas, and serve as her advisor on matters which may be mundane, but cannot be disregarded. If I have influence, let it be said that something I use sparingly, if at all. This is a task which I devote myself solemnly. I and my followers bear burden, so that others are free to guide the spirits of Thedas unencumbered. Excerpt from letter by High Chancellor Roderick, Asinon, 938 Dragon. He does not look like a very exciting fellow. Solus. Cassandra. I understand our first order of business must be to investigate this bizarre breach in the sky and protect people from the demons descending. While my search continues, I wish to draw your attention to a new arrival at our camp. An elven apostate calling himself Solus. Solus entered the camp voluntarily, surrendering his staff to Chantry forces without protest. He is not Dalish, and says he has never been part of the circle, instead claiming to have studied magic peacefully on his own, particularly magic tied to the Fade. While I suspect you are reluctant to accept the help of an apostate, Solus did come to us freely. Witnesses saw him in a nearby village at the time of the blast, so he was likely not responsible for what happened at the Conclave. However, he has described the events of the breach in enough detail to convince me he knows more about the Fade than anyone else present. Solus has requested permission to study the lone survivor and one of the smaller rifts in hope of finding a way to seal the breach. He has correctly guessed that it is growing and believes it will destroy the entire world unless we find a way to stop it. Unless you object, I will allow him his studies. Under proper observation, of course. Liliana. Now that we've read through this, I do kind of remember Solus. I think he was a mage in Liliana's Song DLC, so I suspect Liliana might not be telling the truth here. On the other hand, it might have been someone completely different, and in which case I'm painting her in a very bad light. Trevelyan, the Free Marcher. The Trevelyans are a nobility from Ostwick, a city-state on the southern coast of the Free Marches. It is an old and distinguished family in good standing amongst its peers and with strong ties to the Chantry. His youngest sons and daughters, those third or fourth-born children with little chance of becoming heirs, often join the Chantry to become Templars or clerics. The youngest child, Lord William Trevelyan, was expected to follow suit until the disaster at the Conclave. William was present at the Temple of Sacred Ashes as a representative of his father's interests, along with other distant relatives in the Chantry. He was the only survivor at the temple after the explosion. Rumours that the mysterious mark in his hand is a sign of the Maker's favour were spread by those who claimed they saw the divine prophet Andraste herself lead Lord William out the Fade. So, this leads me to believe that William's father is still alive, and the rest of his family is still alive, so hopefully we should be able to meet them at some point. Interesting. Right, last one. Varric Tethras. There's power in stories. That's all history is. The best tales, the ones that last, might as well be mine. Varric Tethras of the Dwarven Merchants Guild of Kirkwall is famous, or infamous, for two things: his books and his association with the Champion of Kirkwall. After the Templars and the Circle broke away from the Chantry, Divine Justyna V sent her agents to Kirkwall, where the roots of the war began, in search of answers. The Champion had long since disappeared, but Varric had written a book on his friend's involvement in the destruction of Kirkwall Chantry, and the left and right hands of the Divine located him with surprising ease. They captured and interrogated him, then brought him to the Conclave to give his testimony to the Divine in person. But fate decreed that he would never meet her. Okay. So we've read through all of the Codex entries that we currently have, apart from crafting materials. Which I think I'll leave. It's not really story related. I'll leave that out. So yeah, that is everything. So I'm going to take a little break from recording, upload the first episode, and then I'm going to come back and play more. I'm enjoying what I'm playing so far, although I feel I am kind of missing a little bit in the combat. I don't know what exactly. I feel like there's more to it than I'm seeing, but hopefully that'll come with time. So, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.